Hi, this is Chris and this is Riding Reviews. Today we're going to be answering a question from one of the subscribers about the Fosti F50. So King Kebab, that's you, asked if I could do a more in-depth video on the Fosti F50. So here you go. So the Fosti F50 comes in either black or white. It has a trellis frame and it has 17-inch wheels front and back. Comes with a disc on the front and a drum on the back. Now this is Euro 4 spec bike, and that means that it either has to have electronic carburation or fuel injection, and it has to have the lights on all the time. You cannot turn them off. So it has a Honda derived engine, and that comes out at about 2.5 to 3 horsepower with about 4 to 5 newton meters of torque. Now that doesn't sound a lot, but it does push you along at 45 miles an hour. 45 miles an hour, you might be thinking that that's pretty quick for a 50cc. There's a bit of a grey area on the law. If the bike comes into the country restricted, with all of its COC tests, then it doesn't need to be restricted. If it comes in restricted, it has to stay restricted. Now all these bikes have come in and they have done their Euro 4 certification test, which is called a COC. So that means that these go to, I think it's Poland, get checked, get E-marked, get sent back to China, and then they will be built in China and obviously brought to the UK. So a couple of things on this bike. It does have room for a pillion. Obviously that's going to affect your top speed. This will do 45 miles an hour on a flat. It will not do 45 miles an hour up a hill. That's where the gears come in. It's 1 down, 3 up, and the neutral is in the middle of first and second gear. If you have a little bit of trouble getting it into neutral when the bike is brand new, either your clutch may not be adjusted to you, and the gear may be a little bit stiff, especially when they're brand new. So turn off the bike. It is then quite easy to stick it into neutral, and after you've done your servicing and stuff like that, it will get easier and it will stop being so stiff. The looser the engine is, the faster it goes to a certain point, and then it may not work anymore. But we're looking at somewhere in the region of 20 to 25,000 miles if they're serviced correctly before you need to do any major work to the engine. Now you've got to remember that these only hold 0.8 of a litre of oil, so that is why the service intervals are quite small. The first one is at 300 miles, which is 500 kilometres, and then they go to about 1500 and then 2500. So yeah, some of the things that you've got to check in between your servicing: tyre pressures on these are 32 psi, and you've got to make sure that the tension on your chain is correct, and that should be about ½ an inch's worth of play. If it's too tight, then potentially it could snap. If it's too loose, potentially it could come off either the front or rear sprocket and get caught in the wheel and jam your wheel, and you don't want that. So let's start it up. When you turn the bike on, it should make this humming noise, and that is the tank priming itself. So pull in the clutch and start the bike. It should rev up a little bit, and then when it is running at its peak performance, it will quiet down again. I'll do a little bit of a rev. So as you see, it comes with a H4 3535 front bulb, a high beam, low beam, a flasher, horn, and those LED indicators. Now on the clocks, we did have an issue with these before. They were kilometres and they couldn't be changed, and they weren't storing the how far you've been. This has now been remedied, and they now are in miles per hour, and they do store how far you've been. So thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe, and as always, ride safe.